Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank everyone who was able to make it here today and attend the HSE Intern final presentations. My name is Stephen Tran, and I'm going to start us off with an OE moment safety topic covering the Stop Work Authority. As many of you know, from day one, Chevron stresses safety as their #1 priority. Every worker at Chevron not only carries a badge authorizing access within the facility, but also a Stop Work Authority pocket card. Although this card will not open any doors, it has a much greater power. At Chevron, there are two important rules that help guide us in all of our decisions and actions. Number one, do it safely or not at all. And number two, there is always time to do it right. The Stop Work Authority enables every single worker, regardless of rank or expertise, and even us interns, to stop any work we believe that is not being done safely. Here are 5 steps of Stop Work Authority. Number 1, stop the activity or behavior. 2, notify the person in charge, like a supervisor. 3, involve the right people. 4, resume the work. 5, share the lessons learned to prevent something unsafe from happening again. My own personal Stop Work Authority moment was whenever I was out in the refinery. The temperature outside was around 103 degrees. My team and I have been working on a project outside, and I noticed some members of my team getting uncomfortable and have been slowing down. So I used my Stop Work Authority to stop what we were doing and hydrate to get out of the sun for a few minutes. This is extremely important. There's always time to do it right. We want to do it as safely as we can and not have anyone get hurt or pass out in the refinery. Also, Stop Work Authority does not always have to be used in the refinery. It can also be used in any environment, from your office, hallway, bathroom, or parking lot. Anywhere. Working incident and injury-free is a core Chevron principle. Incident and injury-free means creating a safe culture in which workers look out for one another and make the right decisions each day. We want to go home in the same condition as we came to work, or even better. Are there any questions, or would someone like to share their own example of using Stop Work Authority? With that being said, I would like to move on to my final presentation. At Chevron this summer, I am the environmental intern, a part of the environmental compliance team here in the Pascagoula Refinery. I plan on graduating from Louisiana State University in the spring with a bachelor's degree in environmental engineering with a minor in business administration. A little background about my family and I is my dad was a Vietnam War refugee and came to the United States in 1978. And since then, he and my mom followed their passion for cooking and opened a Chinese restaurant. So fast forward about 20 years, my family settled in a very small town in Kansas where I was born and raised. I grew up there for about the first 16 years of my life before moving to Louisiana during my sophomore year of high school. So currently at LSU, I am the vice president of an organization called the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. And in this role, I have the awesome opportunity to mentor and guide the newly enrolled students, promote campus-wide environmental awareness, and get the chance to organize industry events for environmental professionals to visit our campus and speak to our club. I am also a co-captain of the club basketball team at LSU. And finally, of course, I am a big LSU football fan. One of my favorite pastimes in the fall is being able to go to these football games and cheer on the best team in the nation. Outside of college, I really enjoy learning how to cook different types of food, traveling to new places, and going to the gym. With that being said, I would like to move on to the great opportunities I had during my internship. This summer, I have been given the chance to work on 2 major projects and got to assist on other side assignments. For this project, I had the chance to work with the LDAR team on their inventory project. For those who don't know what LDAR stands for, it means leak detection and repairs. And the main objectives of this project is to have our inventory completed for regulatory compliance. But as an environmental group, we find leaks to lower and reduce the refinery's overall emissions. In order to reach our goal, my team assigned me with the very first step of this process. My responsibility started with marking up these P&IDs, which mean piping and instrumentation diagrams, in the refinery. Here's a copy of what a marked up P&ID looks like towards the bottom. I had to mark up each stream composition in the air by color code depending on the percentages of HAPs, meaning hazardous air pollutants, or VOCs, volatile organic compounds. Using the Skybridge software, it helped me identify the composition of each stream. For example, it helped me identify if it was a liquid or vapor, and for instance, the amount of benzene it might have in that line. As you can see in my marked up PNID, most of the area is color-coded blue because in those streams they had at least 4% or greater HABs and at least 10% or greater VOCs in the light liquid. Majority of this area is gasoline, and therefore a lot of the PNIDs I marked up were blue. So then, after when the PNIDs are marked up, it then goes to the LDAR group to start tagging the equipment in the refinery with these green tags you see in the picture. After that, it gets uploaded to our database to then be monitored and counted in our refinery's emission calculations. What I enjoyed about this project is it was the first opportunity I had to put on my PPE, my hard hat, my FRCs, and go to the control room for the first time and build relationships with the console and head operators. Using my necessary safety knowledge, I walked out around the blending area to see and learn the process up close rather than on paper. It was sometimes very difficult to see what exactly was going on in the PNIDs. We have a whole refinery we can go out and look at everything we wanted, and that was the luxury I had during this project. This next project, I had been informed that it had been pending for several years and I had the opportunity to pick up and continue it. I was fortunate enough to work with most of the air and environmental compliance team. The main objectives for this project is to identify and locate all storm and oily water drains in the refinery, which then would lead to having an official updated sewer map model. In order to reach my goal, my team assigned me to various plants in the refinery to map. My task was to go to the specific plant and walk and verify all drains, manholes, and cleanouts. I had to note their condition and location. Here's an example of an older sewer map. The drains were numbered and then noted if they had been added, removed, or confirmed. I often had to fight with Mother Nature because here in Pascagoula, it seems like if it's not 103 degrees outside, it is storming and lightning out. That had delayed much of my time trying to go out to the refinery, but once I got around the weather, I was able to map out all the necessary plants needed. After mapping all the plants, I was able to scan them into our database. Once that was done, it was shared with a third-party consultant to create and draft an official final copy of the refinery sewer maps. I enjoyed and learned a lot from the different plants around the refinery. It is satisfying to know my work on this project will help assist the B1 program even after my internship term here. I was able to walk the layout and was able to identify certain equipment in several processes. I do know that this project was a team collective effort. I was able to work with the air and compliance team individually and essentially become a sponge and absorb as much knowledge as I could. And ultimately, I was more than happy to complete and finish this lingering project. Outside of my projects, I did have some other assignments I worked on. I had the chance to go out to inspect a tank's return to service with our tank specialist and one of our technicians. And during this time, this was my first time climbing up these tanks, and it was awesome. For this tank, it was a equalization tank. I learned that after 60 to 90 days, depending on the product or regulation, it calls for a return to service inspection. It was pretty cool getting on top of the floating roof and checking all the seals and verifying all the tank fittings. For this assignment, it gave me the opportunity to learn more about the Title V air permit and our refinery's compliance plan. For those who don't know what the Title V permit is, it's basically a collection of all of our air requirements in a single document enforced by EPA and MDQ. And on this assignment, I was able to cross-check and reference the different environmental limits to the several pollutants to match with the refinery's compliance plan. On this next slide, I'm going over a few key takeaways I've experienced over the summer. This was my first energy company experience. I've had other experiences in consulting firms, but nothing is quite like the environment we have here at the Pascagoula refinery. Even on day one, I noticed a very strong safety presence. I was waiting for my badge in the main office, and my first Chevron experience was being greeted by a safety video. I got to attend several safety trainings and seminars that had me fully equipped and knowledgeable to perform my projects this summer. Some companies talk about safety, but here at Chevron, we live by it. This is extremely important to me and my family, especially to my mother who calls me every day worrying about me getting hurt in the refinery. I always assure her that here at Chevron, I am in good hands. Another thing I took away from my experience here is how diverse our teams are. Not only people from different ethnicities or the color of the skin, but the never-ending knowledge of every single person that I met. I absolutely loved how willing people here at Chevron were able to teach and assist me with anything I needed or asked of. It gave me a very family-oriented culture that made me very comfortable. With this being my first experience with an energy company and also at a refinery, I gained a better appreciation and understanding of how a refinery works and the diverse skills that everyone has to operate a complex facility. But one of the coolest or the best thing I took away from my experience here was this was the first time I was able to use the concepts I've learned in classes in a more professional environment. Here, everything was hands-on, visual, and it was satisfying to see my work in person rather than a textbook. And of course, finally being able to meet my Pascagoula family and these awesome interns. I am pretty sure even after my internship, we will stay connected. As I approach the end of my presentation, I would like to take this time to acknowledge everyone I got the chance to meet and work with. I know I can't thank everyone here, but I'm truly grateful and blessed for everyone who's had a hand in making this such a great internship experience. I also want to give a special thanks to my supervisor, Jacob Graham, and my mentor, Liddell Neese. I appreciate the time y'all set aside to guide me and help me throughout my projects and all the little questions I had. I also want to thank Arthur Lee for setting this presentation up and all the opportunities we had to learn more about Chevron. I really appreciate what you do for us interns. Again, thank you everybody. Questions?